let's test cheap versus expensive razors. So starting with our shave test, and we can see they both perform quite well. In fact, it looks like cheap gets quite a few more hairs than expensive, but on the expensive side, it did feel a little bit smoother. Next up, moving on to our run test, and this time expensive was a little bit easier to run with. I found that the ergonomic handle was a bit easier to hold, whereas cheap has a much squarer, blockier build. We can confirm this with our visual grip test, where you can see the contact area on expensive was much higher than on cheap, and again that's just because it has a curvier handle than cheap does. Now moving on to our line smoothness test, and we can see they both perform actually quite well. In fact, I'd say cheap has a slightly straighter line than expensive does, but I did feel expensive ran a bit smoother than cheap did. Now taking a closer look at our razor edge under microscope, and we can see that expensive actually has a slightly thinner edge than cheap does, meaning you're just going to get a bit of a closer shave than you would on cheap. Moving on to our ease to clean test, and we can see they both perform quite well, getting rid of a lot of the material that we've got on there. It was a fairly close test, but I would say that expensive seemed to let go a little bit more of the material than cheap did if you look overall. So overall today, expensive wins. Very cool.